Hey guys, today we are diving into the modification of KWA version 2.5 and 3.0 plus gearboxes, including the recoil additions, to fit the Perun V2 Hybrid MOSFET. This process requires meticulous attention to detail, so follow along closely. Disclaimer: before we begin, it is important to note that everything in this video is for airsoft and gel blaster toy guns. None of the modifications or parts discussed in this video are for real firearms or firearm parts. We are not promoting any trade regulated goods. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it. The KWA version 2.5 Plus and the 3.0 gearboxes are fantastic platforms. But to take them to the next level, we're installing the Perun V2 Hybrid MOSFET. A lot of people say that the KWA 2.5 Plus and the 3.0 Plus gearboxes, you can't put a Perun in them. But today I'm showing you how to install the Perun. So the first step is to disassemble the gearbox. Get it out of your airsoft gun and start taking it apart your gearbox. Before you start any of the modifications to the gearbox shell, it is crucial that you pop out the bearings on the side of the gearbox where the ETU goes. This prevents metal shavings from getting in the bearings during the modification process. Use a hand press and a socket that is the same size as the outer race of the bearing to do this without stressing the bearings. Next, we'll modify the gearbox to fit the Perun V2 Hybrid. While a CNC mill is ideal for this modification, you can also use a Dremel rotary tool. Just make sure you use the correct mill bit and avoid using a grinding bit, as it can get gummed up from the aluminum. Trim off material to allow room for the ETU circuit boards to not collide with the gearbox when the ETU is secured. You're going to want to make a beveled edge right here on the gearbox. The reason being is because you don't want the corner of the gearbox shell to catch that sticker and rip it off. Another note is that if you look right here, right at the bottom of the opening for the selector plate, you need to make a relief for the Perun MOSFET so that the little circuit chips on them don't rest on the gearbox. Because if you don't, the Perun MOSFET won't sit flat. You will also need to trim certain areas to allow the ETU to be moved as close to the sector gear as possible. Use a tiny round file to file that hole that secures the ETU to the gearbox, just enough on the right side so that the screw that holds it in doesn't stop the ETU from sliding as far back as it's needed for the sector gear. Don't worry, this won't harm the ETU as there's no traces where you'll be filing. Once the modifications are complete, you can install the ETU into the gearbox. Use an existing screw for the cutoff lever to secure the ETU. Make sure to use Loctite or super glue to keep the screw from backing out and ensure the screw is snug tight so the ETU board doesn't wiggle. It's very important that this doesn't happen, so just make sure you can't wiggle it once you have it secured or you think you have it secured. Next, you'll route the wires in the wire channels of the gearbox. It's important to position the wires coming off the ETU so they don't cover any holes, as the body pins of the receiver will go through these holes and can damage the wires and potentially create a short circuit, and then you have a bad Perun. After you get all your wires routed in and all nice and pretty, the trigger magnet block attachment can get in the way when pushing the center body through the lower receiver and gearbox. To resolve this, all you got to do is trim about 1 millimeter off of the end of that safety lever that blocks the trigger. And the reason why you want to trim off 1 millimeter off of the safety selector lever is because if you don't, when you put that center body pin through the receiver and gearbox, it will block the safety lever from going up and blocking the trigger like it's supposed to when you put the rifle in safe. So don't forget to do that trim off of the safety lever. Once you address that issue, you'll modify the selector plate sticker. This involves cutting out a square piece from the sticker panel that has the selector plate stickers to use as a sticker on the selector plate. The sticker covers the exposed semi-sensor and should be wide enough to cover the full auto sensor based on the U-shaped markings on the gearbox. So if you look on the gearbox, you'll see the little U shape markings on there. And then the selector plate has a little pole that sticks up and goes to every single one of those U-shaped markings. The marking at the very front of the gearbox is safe. This is important to know. The one in the middle is for semi, and the one in the far back is for full auto. You're going to use that as a reference to know where to put that sticker. In this clip right here, I show you how I make that little square. I use a selector plate as a reference. You kind of got to do a little trial and error. It's a good thing you got a whole panel to work with. So keep cutting out squares until you know when you put that sticker on the selector plate, it will cover both the semi and full auto when that selector plate, that little pole, goes all the way to the back U-shaped marking as indicated in the clips. Trial and error is required to position the sticker correctly until white, blue, and red lights appear when they are supposed to. White is for safe, blue is for semi, and red is for full auto. Once the sticker is in the proper place, it will be super glued to the selector plate to permanently secure it. Don't rely on the adhesive on the sticker to stay on there. Okay, so once you get your ETU secured and you got your sticker, you think you got your sticker in the right spot, you'll perform a sensor check. This involves assembling the gearbox with only the sector gear, trigger, ETU, and selector plate. Once you have your gearbox all together with those parts mentioned, you're going to plug in your battery and nothing else. Don't even plug in the motor. So the first thing you're going to do is you'll check the sector gear sensor by just giving the sector gear a little flick with your fingers. Reach in that gearbox and give it a little flick. If a blinking yellow light appears inside the gearbox, this sector gear detection is good, which means you put the ETU in the correct spot, and that's good. Then you'll check the trigger sensor by just pulling the trigger. If the light turns purple, your trigger sensor is good. Lastly, you'll check the selector plate sensors and confirm that you've got the sticker in the right spot. If not, you'll have to move the sticker or modify it until the lights show when they are supposed to. When unsafe, the light should turn white. When on semi, it should turn blue. And when you go to full auto, the light should turn red right between those two little U marks. If all the sensors checks are good, then do it again with the gearbox in the lower receiver and make sure your rear and center body pins are in place. I know, it's extra work, but it'll save you a headache of pulling the gearbox out of the receiver multiple times if you mess it up. By now, you should have a good understanding of how to install your Perun V2 Hybrid into your KWA gearbox. Remember, it's for the 2.5 plus and the 3.0 plus gearboxes. The other ones would require more CNC milling work, so keep that in mind. If you have any questions, feel free to join our Discord community, and I'll leave a link in the description down below if you have any other questions, or you can just comment below. I'm always here to help. I'll help you the best way I can, but the easiest way to help you is through Discord. Hit that like button and comment below and let me know how much it helped you, because that's what I'm here for. I love doing these videos. And if you really want to support me, hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, have a good one.